Who am I? Who am I? What's the problem? Bring those two things together, and your mission is coming out of that. So when you think about a mission, you need to think all the time about what is the specificity of my life. What is my life about? Not the life of my brother. What is my life about? And you will tell me what, it's a long process. In order to know yourself well, you have to work a lot on yourself. You have to make a lot of investigation. You have to spend a lot of time thinking about all those gifts, I would say, that God has given to you in terms of biology, physiology, spirit, grace, friendship, culture, whatever it is. Many things you have to study in order to understand all the things you have received. And then after that you become thankful. And then begins really magnanimity. Magnanimity is a result of this awareness of all those great things that we have received. And we're thankful to God that has given us, who has given us all those great things. And this helps us understand who we are. Who am I? You are what God has wanted to do with you. By giving you all those great things, He has a plan for you. You have to discover that plan according to this knowledge of those gifts that you have received. So this is an important thing. You are a specific human being. You have a specific mission. You have a specific contribution to humanity. Each one of us has to write down on paper his spiritual biography, to make an effort to think about all those people that have an influence on him that was positive. Parents, grandparents, think about your nations, your people, your friends. And you have to write about this. And I promise you one thing. If you begin to write about those things, and in 1 year you come back to it, you will see, well, I see more about this now. The process is something incredible, just the process. Now you think my parents, my grandparents, okay, I can put down 3 or 4 words about each one of them. Put those words down about each one of them. Come back to those words in a year, and you will see you have begun a process. And now you can write much more than 4 words. You have a whole page to write. Because by beginning the process, every day, unconsciously, you will come to this. And little by little, you will see many, many things you never thought about. It's the process that is important. In order to keep this process alive, you have to come back to those notes every year, at least every year, once a year, for a few hours. And you will see that you can add much more to that. And that you can write a beautiful spiritual autobiography. Of course, those who are great writers, they have the capacity to make something that is pleasant for anyone. But the problem is, the question is not to make it public. The question is to have it for yourself. For yourself. For your self-knowledge. If your children want you to publish that for them, do it. But even if you have no children or grandchildren, you do it for yourself because it's a part of your work as a leader. It's a part of your work as a person who wants to understand what is his mission in life. You have to write down your story. And your story has to be positive. I ask my students to do this work. They don't understand why. They rebel. But when they've done it, they are so happy. They are so happy. They are so happy because they tell me all the time, now I understand why. Now I understand why. They discover incredible things. They just begin to think about the good things they have received, and their vision of self is so different. Because when you see what you've received, you feel a desire to respond to that. You feel a desire to respond. The problem with people that are not responsive, it's because they are not aware of what they have got. And there is no need for answer. I got nothing. I give nothing. the more people are aware of what they got, first they have a sense of dignity that is very different. The sense of personal dignity grows very much when you see, wow, my grandfather, yes, he gave me that, now I understand. Now when I think about this, he gave me this. This I get it from him. Your sense of personal dignity, your sense of history, sense of communication, of interrelation with human beings becomes enormous. And then you begin to understand that many people live in you, that you are not alone, that you are not an individual, that you're a person, which means that you are in communication with other persons, that a whole country lives in you, that you are not alone, and that there are many things that you have received. You are not only a social being, but you are being in communication with others all the time. That many people live in you now. And this helps you understand, and this is what my students always tell me, that they begin to understand that they better do things in life. They better respond because they understand what they have received and they feel ashamed if there is no answer to that. It's what is the specific thing you have to do according to what you are. So you have a lot of people that have a deep, I would say, spiritual, religious sense, and they have a sense of vocation. Because vocation is something we discover in the intimacy of our heart in prayer with God. It's a very religious thing, vocare. Vocare means call. You're called by God. Vocare, to be something. So it's very, it has historically a deep religious content, a vocation. And many people that are deeply religious because they have a strong life of prayer discover their vocation quite easily, even when they're very young. But a mission is something very different. A mission is something very human, very human. And it requires a very strong knowledge of self. It's something that you have to do. It's not about whom you have to become. A mission is very much directed towards something you have to do, action. And in a mission, there is a lot of subjectivism, which means there is a lot of part of self-thinking. I'm not saying that God is not interested in your mission. Of course He is, because God is interested in everything we do. And He's very interested in our missions. You understand? But He wants each one of us to think what our mission could be. You know, He wants the initiative to come from you. He wants you to use your brain, to use your self-knowledge, to use self-awareness, knowledge of your talents, understanding of the country where you're living, the problems you face in your society, in your country, in the world, in your family, in your organizations. He wants you to think about all this, to get a picture about what is it that you think you have to do now. You know, it's much more complicated. Much more complicated. To have a sense of mission is much more complicated than to have a sense of vocation. So you have, what do you have? You have a lot of people that because they're very religious people, because they spend a lot of time in prayer, they are contemplative spirits, they have no problem with vocation. No problem. They clearly see God calls me to be that. But when the times come of mission, very often they are lost, because many of those people don't have magnanimity, don't have it. Don't have magnanimity. They don't see what is the thing I need to do, I must do of who I am, according to what I am. And on the opposite, you see people that have nothing to do with religion, so they have no sense of vocation at all, but they have a powerful sense of mission. Because they see very clearly the stuff they have to do on earth. You see? Because it's a different perspective. A mission is something very secular. It's something very human, in which there is a lot of possibility of freedom. You are the one that has to do the work. In a vocation, it's God who is doing the work for you. And you have to say okay or no. But in a mission, you have to do the work. You have to do the whole work. So it's very difficult. It's much more difficult to get a mission than to understand a vocation